doctors making a lot of money. It's very concerning. And some people might argue and say, well, it's none of my business. It doesn't concern me. Well, I just don't think that's the right Christian attitude, first of all. But even if we put our faith aside, it affects society. It affects families. And guess what it does? Guess who comes in and tries to clean up the mess? Government. And so government has to grow. Government has to kind of pick up the pieces of families that have been ruined, businesses and so on. People have been laid off because of bad decisions, or they've been fired, or so on. And so they have to basically depend on the aid of their neighbors. And so we don't think the proliferation and expansion of illegal narcotics builds strong families and communities. We think it does the exact opposite. So issue 3 is about expanding the current medical marijuana program here in Arkansas. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with what that medical marijuana program is here, so let me quickly explain it. So back in 2016, I believe it was, there was an issue on the ballot to legalize medical marijuana. And the process that it passed, it didn't pass, significantly, but it passed probably 54, 46, something like that. But when it passed, it allowed a person to go to a physician only. And at the time, it was fewer qualified medical conditions to be able to get that certification, that approval from a doctor. And now it's been expanded to 18. But anyways, you can go to a doctor and you can present and say, doctor, I've got this, one of these qualifying conditions. 2 of those qualifying conditions, unfortunately, you cannot take a blood test. You cannot take an MRI or a CAT scan and be diagnosed with that issue. And so it really allows anybody who can go in and play a good game, talk smooth or whatever, or go to a doctor that just writes the certifications left and right, and they can get a medical marijuana certification. It's just a note. It's like a piece of paper, sort of like a prescription, but it's not a prescription. They can take that to the local county health unit or the state health department if they're in Little Rock or around one of those offices, and they can get their medical marijuana card. So it's not too hard. Most of those doctors will probably charge about $100 or so to get your certification. To get your medical marijuana card from the state, it costs $50, I believe right now. So once that person gets their medical marijuana card, they can then go purchase up to 2.5 ounces of marijuana every 14 days. Now, if you've never seen 2.5 ounces of marijuana, picture going to Kroger or Harps and going to the spice section and getting about 3 bottles, regular size of oregano. It looks like marijuana. Put that in a sandwich baggie. That's about 2.5 ounces. And so how long does that last you? Is that enough? Is that too much? I believe it's way too much for a person, even if they did have a qualified medical condition. I have a tree servicing business on the side down in Sherwood where I live. And so I've got guys that don't have their driver's license, they're hard up for work, they've had criminal charges, they've had bad, deck of cards given to them and so on, and they just need work to make money that day to survive. And so I asked Kelsey, I said, hey, how much does 2.5 ounces of marijuana look like? He told me. And so I said, under the current medical marijuana program, if I had 2.5 ounces of marijuana, highly infused with THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, the part that gets you high, in other words. I said, if I get 2.5 ounces every 14 days, is that enough? Is that not enough? Keith looked at me and said, Luke, you can stay high all day long with 2.5 ounces of marijuana that has THC upwards of 90% infused or whatever. He says, that's a lot of marijuana. Even if you've got cancer or something else, you can stay high all day long, and you'll probably have some left over after that 14 days. So getting back to issue 3, the expansion of medical marijuana on the ballot. We think it's already easy enough. We think it's plentiful enough. There's no reason to expand the medical marijuana program in Arkansas through issue 3. So we would encourage you to vote against. On your ballot, it would be for or against. We would encourage you to vote against issue 3. Again, I've got several things here listed kind of specific to the medical marijuana amendment. And Pastor, I'm going to leave some of these call these bulletin inserts, flyers, whatever you want to call it. We've got these. If you would be so kind to grab some of these and give them to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, anybody who's registered to vote. Okay? Don't waste your time with people who don't register. Maybe you can talk to them later, I guess I should say. But November 5th is the election. 2 weeks from tomorrow is early voting. We have 3 Sundays left before Super Tuesday. So there's not much time. And we need people of faith to be the hands and feet of Jesus to help educate our brethren, our registered voters across the state, and encourage them to do what's right. And we've read the amendment. The amendment's long. It's boring, kind of, if you will. But it does several things, and I'll just go over this real quickly. It allows not only a physician to write a medical marijuana certification, that note you get from the doctor. It allows then, I think, nurse practitioners, advanced practice nurses, and pharmacists to do the same thing. So it expands it in that realm. It allows people from out of state to come and basically get a free medical marijuana card, temporary card, to be able to do their medical marijuana tourism, or whatever you want to call it. Even if you were objective and kind of favored marijuana, whatever you want to call it, it gives them a free card. It allows people to grow up to 14 plants in their home. How about living next door to someone who's got marijuana growing in their house? You might think, well, it's just like a tomato plant. Not exactly.
No.
Not exactly. There have been instances of cartels being involved. I'm sure you've heard some of the horror stories in Colorado, where you had like law enforcement officers in Colorado back when they legalized it saying, yes, this will be a good thing. It's a drain on resources to fight drugs, and marijuana's not that bad anyways. It's not like alcohol or these other hard drugs. Well, then you got the cartel moving in and buying up houses, and they're blowing up because of the butane hash oil. They're bringing unsavory folks into the neighborhood. Again, folks, like I said, Family Council, so a 501c3 division, Family Council Action Committee, or 501c4, we're trying to promote that which is good. We're trying to build safer, healthier, more stable neighborhoods. Expanding illegal narcotics like this is not the way to do it. It's not the way to grow our tax base, to further support roads and bridges and so forth and so on. There's more I could say about issue 3 and the amendment. I've probably been talking for about 16 minutes or so. I know some of you probably have questions. If anything, I'd love to try to answer those. At this time, Pastor, I don't know if we need a mic to go around, but this time I'd love to answer some questions. I can keep talking if I need to, but I'd love to answer questions. Yes, ma'am.